Hi, welcome to lesson 13, session 2. Today we will be subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. We will be doing this very similarly to how we add fractions. The only difference is instead of adding the two numerators, we're going to be subtracting and possibly regrouping or borrowing if necessary. So we are going to be working today on in our Ready Classroom math workbook on pages 253 through page 258. So please go ahead and take out your Ready Classroom math workbook and turn to page 253. All right, so now if we're on page 253, we are going to be, sorry about that. All right, if we are on page 253, we are going to go ahead and just read this problem. So the problem says, Gavin has 2/3 of a pint of water left in his water bottle. Okay, so here's his 2/3. He drinks a half of a pint. How much water is left in the water bottle now? So first of all, what are we talking about? We're talking about water in a water bottle. And the problem that we're trying to solve is how much water does he have left in the water bottle after he drinks some of it? And then finally, what is the important information? The important information is that he has 2/3 of a pint when he begins, and then he drinks half of a pint. So he doesn't drink half of what he has 2/3 of a pint, and then he drinks a half of a pint. This is what he drinks. We want to know, what is this part here? What does he have left in his water bottle when he's done drinking half of a pint of water? So to do this, we're going to use the same steps that we used when we were adding fractions. When we get to step 4, instead of adding the two fractions, we're going to subtract. So the first thing we do is we write the equation in sandwich formation. So the equation is, he has 2/3 to start with. So we're going to start with our 2/3. And then he drinks a half. So we're going to subtract a half. And that's what we're going to solve. Now, just like with adding fractions, we cannot subtract fractions that do not have a common denominator. So we need to go ahead and find the multiples of both 3 and 2. And we're trying to find the lowest common multiple. So the multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12. And I think that's enough. And then the multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6. And we can go ahead and stop at 6 because both 3 and 2 have a common multiple of 6. So we're going to change these both into sixths. So to change 2/3 into a sixth, we're going to multiply 3 times 2 to make it a sixth. So whatever we multiply the denominator by, we're also going to multiply the numerator by. So an equivalent fraction to 2/3 is 4/6. Then we're going to say, okay, we multiply 2 times 3 to get 6. So we're going to also multiply 1 times 3 and get 3. So now we can go ahead and subtract our fractions. When we subtract fractions, our denominator stays the same, and we're just going to look at our two numerators and say, what is 4 minus 3? That equals 1. So our new numerator is 1. So in the question, what is 2/3 minus 1/2? The answer is 1/6. So Gavin has 1/6 of water left in his water bottle. So I want to go over those steps one more time with you, and I've got a problem here. So it is going to be subtracting fractions with uncommon denominators. In this case, I'm going to do what is 1/4 minus 1/6. So the first step is to write the equation in sandwich formation with the larger fraction on top. So we know that when we're subtracting, that the larger number is always listed first when we're subtracting. So we're going to go ahead and keep 1/4 on top. And then we have 1/4 minus 1/6. The next thing we do is we find the lowest common multiple for these two denominators. So the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. And the multiples of 6 are 6 and 12. So we can see that our lowest common multiple is 12. So we're going to use 12 as our common denominator. Then we're going to make equivalent fractions. That's step 3. Make equivalent fractions for both fractions. So 1/4 is equivalent to 3/12 because we multiply both the numerator and denominator by 3 to get to 3/12. And then 1/6, we multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2 to get 2/12. And then we can subtract our two numerators, keeping the same denominator. 3 minus 2 equals 1. So then our step 4, after we've made our equivalent fractions, is to subtract your equivalent fractions, keeping the same denominator and oh, not adding. See, look I catch errors whenever I'm working with you guys. I love it. We're not going to add because we are subtracting. So we and subtract the numerators. There you go. So here are your steps when you are subtracting fractions with uncommon denominators. Here are your steps. First, write the equation in sandwich formation with the larger fraction on top. Second, find the lowest common multiple for the denominators, which in this case was 12. Third, make equivalent fractions for both fractions, which is 3/12 and 2/12. And then subtract the numerators to get your new numerator. Your denominator stays the same, and your answer is 1/12 for this particular problem. This is called, like, I would call this just the standard method or the standard algorithm when we're talking about what method we use to solve. I would call this just the standard way. Go ahead and turn to page 254. So here we're going to look and we're going to see a picture model and then a number line model. And then I showed you the standard model on the last page. So here we have the water bottle. This water bottle here, we are told has 2/3 of a pint of a water in it. So a third is gone, it isn't there. And we have 2/3 of a water bottle left. Then then Gavin drinks a half a pint of water. So if this were full all the way to the top, that would be a pint. So he drinks about half of the water bottle, but we don't have, since 1/2 and 2/3 don't have the same denominator, we can't just subtract them. We need to use equivalent fractions to find a common denominator. So 2/3 is the same as 4/6. And 1/2 is the same as 3/6. So if we took the water bottle and we split it into sixths, then we have 6 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we started with 4/6, and then we see that we drink 3/6. So if you look at this second picture, we start with 4/6, and then we're going to take 3/6 away that we drank. And then all that's left is this tiny little piece here at the bottom, which is 1/6. So we know that 4/6 minus 3/6 equals 1/6. Now we could use a number line to do the same thing. So the number line below is divided into 6 because that was our common denominator. So this would be 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and then 6/6 would be the same as 1. Now we know that we start at 4/6 because we made that equivalent fraction up here. So we start at 4/6, and then we're going to count backwards 3/6. So we're going to count back 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, which takes us here, which is at 1/6. So 4/6 minus 1, 2, 3/6 equals 1/6. That's how you use the number line to do the same math problem. Let's go ahead now and go to page 255. So now, when we are looking at the picture it and the model it from the previous page, why is 2/3 rewritten as 4/6? So we know, I'll fix that, hang on one second. So, and also why is 1/2 rewritten as 3/6? So, thirds and halves are different size parts. So thirds and halves are different size parts. So to subtract the parts from each other, we need the parts to be the same. So we need to find, the big word here is equivalent fractions. We need to make these are equivalent fractions here. And we need to have the same denominator. Having that same denominator makes it so that we can subtract them. Otherwise, we can't. So why are 6 chosen as a common denominator? 6 is a multiple of both 3 and 2. So it is a common denominator because both 3, it is a multiple of both 3 and 2. So using 6 as a common denominator, write the equation to show the difference of 2/3 and 1/2. Well, we can see here that 2/3, the equivalent fraction to 2/3 is 4/6, and the equivalent fraction to 1/2 is 3/6. So 4/6 minus 3/6 equals 1/6. So number 4 asks, how much water is left in the bottle? We know that there is this amount right here, which is 1/6 of a pint. So could you have subtracted with a different common denominator? Provide an example. So there are more multiples that 2 and 3 have in common than just 6. So for example, yes, we could use any common multiple. So in this case, 12 is also a common multiple of both 3 and 2. 2/3 is the same as 8/12, and 1/2 is the same as 6/12. So 8/12 minus 6/12 equals 12/12. So we could have used 12 as a common multiple. As we get further into fractions, you'll find that some of your classmates may not necessarily be using the same common multiple that you're using. And that's totally fine because that common multiple not being the same, you're still going to show, if you get the right answer, you're still going to show the same amount. It'll just be a different equivalent fraction in your answer, because we could divide 2 and 12 both by 2 and get 1/6, which is the answer. 1/6 and 2/12 are also equivalent fractions. So number 6 says, explain how to subtract two fractions with unlike denominators. Well, you write the fractions as equivalent fractions that have the same denominator, then you subtract the fractions. So we wrote 2/3 and 1/2 at both as 6. Those are our equivalent fractions that have the same denominator. And then we simply subtracted the fractions to get our answer. Now reflect, look back at all the different strategies we've looked at. So today we looked at 3 different strategies. I would say we used the standard strategy, we'll call it that, which is what I showed you when we were practicing at the beginning. We also looked at a picture model, and then we also looked at a number line model. When you're looking at those 3 strategies, what is the strategy that you like best when subtracting fractions? So you're going to go ahead and say the strategy I like best when subtracting fractions is, and then tell me why. Go ahead and pause the video and do that, and then when you're ready, we'll move on to the next page. Okay, we're now on page 255. we're going to go ahead and practice. I'm going to do 2 of these with you, and then you'll do the third one on your own. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do number 8. What is 7/8 minus 1/6? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write these, we're going to write this into sandwich formation just so it's a little bit easier to deal with. Then we're going to go ahead and make equivalent fractions using a common multiple. So we have to figure out what that common multiple is. So we have multiples of 8 and multiples of 6. So multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, and I think we're high enough now. Multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, and we can go ahead and stop there because we found a common multiple. So we're going to make both of these into 24ths. I have a feeling we're going to be getting a little bit bigger numbers than we're typically used to. So what do we multiply 8 by to get 24? We multiply it by 3. So remember that whatever you multiply the denominator by, you also multiply the numerator by. So 8 times 3 is 24, 7 times 3 is 21. Then we're going to make an equivalent fraction for 1/6 using 24ths. So 6 times 4 is 24. So we're going to multiply the numerator by 4, which gives us 4. Finally, we're going to take our two numerators and subtract them. So 21 minus 4 equals 17. 17 is our new numerator, and our denominator stays the same. So the answer is 17/24. Let's go ahead and go to number 9. If you want, you can go ahead and try doing number 9 on your own, and then you can come back and check and see if you got the same answer I did. If not, you can just go ahead and follow along with me. Otherwise, pause the video now. All right. Emily's shelf is 3/4 of a foot wide. Her clock is 2/3 of a foot wide. How much wider is her shelf than her clock? Show your work. So her shelf is 3/4 of a foot wide. Her clock is 2/3 of a foot wide. We want to find out how much 3/4 minus 2/3 is. So after we've written it in sandwich formation, we're going to find a common multiple between 3 and 4 and 3. Now you probably already know what the common multiple is because some of these numbers we use all the time. And so you're going to come up with and go, oh my goodness, Mrs. McGuire, I already know that the common multiple for 3 and 4 is 12. But just in case, I wanted to show you the steps with finding your common multiples. So we're going to turn both of these into 12ths. Then we're going to turn them both into equivalent fractions, multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by the same amount. And then finally, we're going to subtract our two numerators to get our new numerator, and then our denominator stays the same. So on number 9, 3/4 minus 2/3 is 1/12 after we make our equivalent fractions. I'll help you set up number 10, and then I want you to do number 10 on your own. What is the value of the expression 9/10 minus 3/5? 9/10 minus 3/5. Make sure that you find a common multiple between 10 and 5, and you might be able to look at that and tell immediately what it's going to be. Find the common multiple, make equivalent fractions, subtract your numerators, keep the same denominator. As always, if you have any questions, you can email your teacher. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.